Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Hare Krishna. This morning we are reading from 10th Canto, chapter 27, entitled Indra and Surabhi Offer Prayers. Text number. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Sankirtita Krishno Magho na Bhagavan Amum Mega Gambhiraya Vacha Prahasan Idam Abravit. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Sankirtita Krishno Magho na Bhagavan Amum Mega Gambhiraya Vacha Prahasan Idam Abravit. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Sankirtita Krishno Magho na Bhagavan Amum Mega Gambhiraya Vacha Prahasan Idam Abravit. Matajis. Word to word meaning. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Evam, in this manner, Sankirtitaha, glorified, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Maghona, by Indra. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Amum, to him. Megha, like the clouds. Gambhiraya, grave. Vacha, with words. Prahasan, smiling. Idam, the following. Abravit, spoke. Translation. Shukdev Goswami said, thus glorified by Indra, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, smiled and then spoke to him as follows in a voice resonant like the clouds. A short purport. Although in this pastime Lord Krishna appeared to be a small boy, the words Megha Gambhiraya Vacha indicate that he spoke to Indra with a deep resonant voice of the Supreme Lord. So we also have text 15. I'll recite. Should we recite together or? Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya te kari Maghavan Makha Bhango Anugranata Mad Anusmratye Nityam Matasyendra Shriya Bhrisham. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Indra, it was out of mercy that I stopped the sacrifice meant for you. You were greatly intoxicated by your opulence as King of Heaven, and I wanted you to always remember me. Purport. According to Sridhar Swami, Indra and Lord Krishna here exchange a heart-to-heart talk. Indra revealed his mind to the Lord, and now Lord Krishna similarly reveals his own intention. In text 11 of this chapter, Indra emphatically declared that Lord Krishna is in fact everything. And thus, according to Indra's own criteria, forgetting Lord Krishna is clearly a state of insanity. When the Supreme Lord reminds us of his supreme existence, he is not proudly advertising himself like a mundane politician or entertainer. The Lord is self-satisfied in his own infinite existence and is trying lovingly to bring us back to our own perfect existence as his eternal associates. From God's point of view, even the mighty King of Heaven Indra is a mere child, and a naughty child at that. And thus the Lord, being a caring father, punished his child and brought him back to the sanity of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So it's my great honor and pleasure to be here at Shri Radha Rasbihari Temple and being blessed with this service to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam. I sincerely thank all the temple managers and all the devotees for allowing me to render this service over here. And at the same time, a little embarrassing to speak in front of so many senior Vaishnavas here. I sincerely seek the blessings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami Maharaj, Bhaktarup Prabhu, Ramrup Prabhu, and so many other senior Vaishnavas present over here, so that we can discuss on this very important and instructive pastime of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the previous verse, Shukdev Goswami is saying, Evam Sankirtita Krishno Maghona Bhagavan Amum. So after Indra glorified Lord Krishna Sankirtita, then Bhagavan Krishna began to speak. But how did he speak? That is being mentioned over here. Megha Gambiraya Vacha Prahasan. Quite interesting. There is Gambiraya, there is gravity, but at the same time Prahasan, smiling. Appears to be a little paradox. Somebody who is grave appears to be not so happy and smiling, but here we find a combination of apparent contrasts. Of course, the Supreme Lord, all apparent contradictions are resolved in the absolute truth. And so the Lord can perform both these activities. He's speaking in a very grave voice, but at the same time, he's smiling. Why is he smiling? Because Indra has realized his own position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is very happy when the jiva finally surrenders to him. The Lord has been patiently waiting lifetime after lifetime, since time immemorial. He has been waiting for the jivas who have become bahirmukh, who have turned their face away from Krishna, to once again turn their face towards him. And so here, seeing the surrender of Indra, the king of heaven, towards him at his lotus feet, Krishna is very happy. And in the next verse, the Lord begins to speak, and he says, Mayate Kari Maghavan Makhabhango Anugranata. So he says that the Makha means the sacrifice. The Indra sacrifice of Nanda Maharaj, Bhanga, it was stopped. Who stopped it? Krishna says, Maya, I have done it. I have only done it. Why I did it? Anugranata. That was my mercy. And why? Why did he do it? So he says, because Mattas Yendriya Shriya Brisham. So that and then he says, Mat Anusmritya Nityam. So that you can remember me. So that is what the Lord expects. He expects that the living entity remembers him, because by remembering him, that is for the benefit of the living entity. And so therefore, when Krishna saw that Indra was very much proud of his position, so at that time, out of his great mercy on Indra, the Lord orchestrated this pastime to render a great favor to Indra, and that is to curb his false pride. Sridhar Swami makes an important comment here that because Indra revealed his heart to Krishna, so he glorified Krishna and he admitted his own fault. Because he admitted his own fault, he revealed his heart. So now Krishna also reveals his heart. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. That is Krishna's way of reciprocation. So when we, as jivas, we express our heart, we express our fallen nature, our own flaws, our own fallacies, we express that before the Lord, then the Lord also reciprocates accordingly. And so here we find that there is a heart-to-heart talk between the servant and the master. And Krishna is revealing his innermost purpose as to why he orchestrated this entire pastime. It is something very confidential. How Krishna acts in the life of a devotee because of Krishna's affection for his devotees, his Bhakta Vatsal nature. Out of his affection for his devotee, Krishna acts in such ways. He gives his mercy to his devotees in such incredible and unparalleled ways. And through one pastime, Krishna, he fulfills so many purposes. All this are Krishna's very intimate dealings with his devotees. Therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that this is Raj Vidya, Raj Guhyam. This is the most confidential knowledge. The knowledge about devotional service that Krishna explains in the middle 6 chapters is most confidential because here Krishna explains his dealings. Of course, he explains his Aishwarya Gyan, but he also explains his Madhurya Gyan, which is his dealings with his devotees, which are very, very intimate. So here, we find how Krishna reciprocates when he sees that a devotee has pride. So we would like to discuss something on the subject matter of the pitfalls of pride. And we would like to discuss it under 3 headings. The first is, what are the causes of pride in the heart of the conditioned souls? What are the symptoms and effects, consequences? And what are the solutions? Definitely an often discussed topic, but still it is worth revising, remembering, and I'm trying to remember for my own purification and for my own spiritual progress. This very important aspect or a great important obstacle on the path of devotional service, especially in the path of sadhakas, and that is false pride. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports to the Bhagavad Gita, what is the cause of pride? In the purport to 15th chapter, verse number 5, he describes nirmana moha. The cause of pride is moha, that is illusion. So when one forgets, when one is in illusion that I am an insignificant spirit soul, I am simply a servant of the Lord, I am totally controlled by material nature, my independence is practically nil. When one forgets this basic understanding of one's own precarious position in this material world, one tends to become proud. And one tends to think that, oh, I'm very powerful. I can do so many wonderful things. But in front of the Supreme Lordships, Shri Radha Ras Bihari, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Shri Gaunitai, in front of their Lordships, what is our power? What is our ability? Everything is so insignificant. And it's only due to forgetfulness that one thinks one is great. And one thinks, Ishwaroham, Aham Bhogi, Siddhoham, Bhalavan Sukhi. Krishna describes in the 16th chapter what is the mentality of materialistic people. So they think, I am the Ishvara, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, Siddha. And by my plans in this world, I will be happy. Not understanding that their plans for happiness are thwarted by material nature at every step. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to explain this point, he tells an interesting story which you may have heard before. Once a frog, as he was wandering on the road, got a 1 rupee coin. When the frog got the 1 rupee coin, he thought, now I'm the wealthiest person in the world. And he was so proud. He was so puffed up. And standing on the middle of the road, he was declaring, just see, I'm the richest person in the world. In the opposite direction, one huge elephant was coming. When the frog saw the elephant, the frog raised his voice and he started shouting at the elephant, you elephant, get out of the way. Can't you see I'm the richest person in the world? What does the elephant care for insignificant frogs? The elephant probably hardly noticed the frog. But the frog was increasing his volume and declaring himself to be the richest person, and everyone else should bow down in front of him. The frog kept marching ahead. And as the elephant came closer to the frog began to realize his insignificant position, his very tiny position in front of the huge elephant. And he thought, it seems the end has come close. But by the will of providence, the elephant's legs missed the frog. And the frog thought, wow, what a relief. I have been spared. But as the elephant walked ahead, from its rear came a huge quantity of stool, which fell on the frog and submerged the richest person in the world. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells the story to make the point that this is the position of the insignificant conditioned souls in this world, who declare themselves to be the Ishwaras, the controllers, the enjoyers. But when the cyclones come, the typhoons come, the volcanoes come, the earthquakes come, when COVID comes, then whether one is rich or poor, strong or weak, whoever one may be, one is subdued by the forces of material nature. That is the position of the living entity. And Lord Krishna explains in the 13th chapter, 22nd verse, that the result of such vain attempts of the living entities to become enjoyers Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangasya sad asad yoni janmasu. Even though the living entity falsely claims to be the enjoyer, claims to be the Purusha, though the Purusha is only one. But the living entity, because of moha, because of illusion, claims to be the enjoyer, claims to be the Purusha, and tries to enjoy the material nature. Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte. Prakriti jan gunan, he tries to enjoy. But whoever one may be, that enjoyment has to come to an end at the time of death. And then the living entity has to transmigrate to the next body in different species, sad asad yoni janmasu, higher or lower species, which definitely is not in the hands, in the control of the living entity. Karmana devanetrena jantur dehopapatyate. By the laws of karma, the living entity is forced to enter into the wombs of the mothers of different living entities. This is the result of pride. So, the main cause of pride is moha, illusion. And the result of that, the secondary cause, is one fails to understand the relationship of all opulences that one may have with the Supreme. One fails to realize that if I have any opulence in this world, if I have any power, it is only because of the grace of the Lord. Yad yad vibhuti matsatvam Srimad urjatam evava tattad evava gachatvam mama tejo amsha sambhavan. Krishna says in the 10th chapter of the Gita that if anyone has any opulence in this world, yad yad vibhuti matsatvam, if there's anyone has any vibhuti in this world, that is simply a spark of my splendor. That opulence is simply because the Supreme Lord has agreed to give us an insignificant spark, an insignificant portion of His unlimited opulences. But when one fails to see that connection with the Lord because of illusion, then one becomes proud, thinking that these opulences are mine. I have acquired them by my strength, by my endeavor, by my power. I've acquired this, therefore I should enjoy. That's the materialistic way of thinking. So the root cause of pride is illusion. Just like in the case of Indra. He forgot. He's definitely Ishvara. He's one of the Ishvaras, is the king of heaven. But he forgot there is a Param Ishvara who's in full control. Ishvara, Parama Krishna. There are many Ishvaras. But all the Ishvaras of this world are simply getting their power from the Param Ishvara. Srila Prabhupada gives the example. Just like here, there is beautiful chandeliers with so many beautiful lights, but all the power for all these lights is from the powerhouse. So similarly, all opulences one may have is coming from the source of all opulences, that is the Supreme Lord. When one forgets, one becomes proud. The second point we are discussing is what are the symptoms and what are the consequences of such false pride. One of the prominent symptoms of such false pride is that one fails to recognize the supremacy of the Lord, and one fails to honor and respect the Supreme Lord and all living entities who are in relation to the Supreme Lord. That is one of the prime symptoms of false pride. When Lord Balaram went on his Tirtha Yatra, he came to Naimisharanya, where thousands of sages had assembled, and they had appointed Romaharshan to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Romaharshan, such a scholarly devotee, direct disciple of Vyasadeva, and he was speaking the Bhagavatam, and Lord Balaram comes there. Romaharshan, he does not pay any heed to the presence of Lord Balaram, though all the other sages stand up to welcome, receive, and respect him. But Romaharshan does not offer any sort of respect to Lord Balaram, who's the Supreme Lord, the Adi Guru. Seeing this, Lord Balaram says, Risher Bhagavato Bhutva Shishyo Ditya Bahunicha Retiha Setihasa Puranani Dharmashastrani Sarvashaha Adantasya Vinitasya Vita Pandita Maninaha Na Gunaya Bhavanti Sma Natasye Vajitatmanaha. So Lord Balaram says, Risher Bhagavato Bhutva Shishyo Aditya Bahunicha. He is a Shishya of Risher Bhagavato, that is Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself. And he has thoroughly studied Bahuni, Itihasa, Puranani. He has thoroughly studied all the various Vedas, Puranas, Itihasas, Dharma Shastra, Sarvasha. He has studied all of them thoroughly. Yet, Na Gunaya Bhavanti. He has no good qualities. Adantasya. He is not self-controlled. Avinitasya. He is not humble. Vita Pandita Maninaha. He simply imagines himself. He simply claims himself to be a great Pandita. And also, Avijitatmanaha. He has not controlled his mind and senses. And so therefore Lord Balaram comes to the conclusion and he declares that this person is simply a hypocrite who is simply pretending to understand religious principles. And therefore Lord Balaram says, I have descended into this world to put an end to hypocrites like this. And so saying, Lord Balaram picks up a kusha grass. And what can Lord Balaram not do? Lord Balaram empowered the kusha grass like a sword and simply touched the tip of the kusha grass to Romaharshan's neck and cut off his head. Lord Balaram wanted to very graphically and emphatically show either one becomes like a blade of grass or the blade of grass will finish you. So Lord Balaram wanted to establish that the essence of the study of the Shastras, the essence of the practice of religion is to develop good qualities. That is the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate essence. The manifestation, Vidya Vinaya, the manifestation of Vidya, the manifestation of true knowledge, spiritual knowledge, is one develops good qualities. And therefore, Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, verses 8 to 12, mentions what is Gyanam. Real Gyanam is development of qualities. Amanitvam, Adhambitvam, Arjavam, Ahimsa, all these are the manifestations of true Gyanam. Not simply a scholarly presentation of the Shastra, not simply scholarship. That is not the true manifestation of learning. The true manifestation of Vidya, of learning, is purification of the heart leading to manifestation of good qualities. Therefore, learning by itself, which is an opulence, but if there is no devotion, if one cannot see that connection to the Lord, then it results in pride. Similarly, we see in the pastimes of Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and all the cowherd men on a Shivratri night, had gone to Ambikavan in Gujarat, and they worshipped Lord Shiva and Uma, and on the night they took rest on the bank of the river Saraswati. And as the cowherd men were taking rest, a huge, hungry snake. The snake was not only huge but very hungry and looking for its prey, its meal. So as the snake slithered towards Nanda Maharaj, the snake opened its mouth wide and engulfed Nanda Maharaj. You can just imagine the size of the snake, that it would engulf Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj, of course, immediately started shouting, Krishna, Krishna, please save me. I'm a soul surrendered to you. All the cowherd men immediately came with logs of wood, lit them into torches, and they started beating the snake with torches. But still, the snake was not ready to leave. And finally, Krishna arrived, and Krishna placed his lotus feet on the snake, and the snake immediately transformed into a beautiful, glowing personality wearing beautiful ornaments. Of course, Lord Krishna knows everything, but still, Lord Krishna asks him, who are you? And who has forced you into such an abominable body? The Lord wanted to teach the whole world important lessons through the mouth of this glowing personality, Vidyadhar. So the Vidyadhar replied, I'm one of the well-known Vidyadhars named Sudarshan. And once I was very beautiful, very opulent, and I was traveling in an airplane. And as I was traveling in an airplane, I saw the ugly sages of the descendants of Angira Muni. They were not very beautiful. They were a little deformed. And seeing them, I laughed. This is a symptom of pride. One who has pride thinks himself better than others, thinks himself superior to others, and therefore thinks he has the right to deride others and make fun of them. That is the symptom of false pride. And so here, Sudarshan, because of his beauty, because of his opulence, he thought he had the right to deride the great sages in the line of Angira Muni. And the sages, out of their mercy, they wanted to teach this Vidyadhar a good lesson for all time to come. And therefore they cursed him to become a serpent. What? And it was not that it took many years for that change of body to take place. Instantaneously, on the spot, from one of the most beautiful personalities, he changed into a slithering, ugly snake. Just imagine what a culture shock that could have been. And previously beautifully singing and dancing, what can a snake do? Simply hiss. But that was the situation. And then Sudarshan admits that the sages, out of their great mercy, he says, Shapame anugrahaya eva kritaste karunatmabi yadaham loka guruna padasprishto hata shubha. So he says, out of their anugrah, out of their mercy, they cursed me to be a serpent, because the sages by nature are karunatmabi, they are very merciful. And as a result of that, yad aham loka guruna pada, I have got the lotus feet of the spiritual master of the entire universe. He has touched me, sprishto, and as a result, hata ashubha. Whatever is ashubha, whatever is inauspicious, has been eradicated by the touch of the Supreme Lord. And so therefore, here, by the grace of the sages, the representatives of the Supreme Lord, by their mercy, the pride of Sudarshan was crushed by his transformation into a snake. That was their mercy. And so therefore, the Supreme Lord and the great devotees of the Lord, they understand that pride is a great stumbling block on the path of devotional service, on the path of spiritual advancement. And when they see that someone has great pride, of course, the materialistic people are naturally being crushed by the forces of material nature. But if one is a devotee, if one is trying to make spiritual advancement, and if the Lord and his devotees see that one has pride, then out of their mercy they take steps by which the pride is eradicated. And so therefore, Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when he sees that Arjuna, out of pride of the bodily concept, when one has pride, it is basically due to a bodily concept of life. And so when Krishna saw in Arjuna the pride of the bodily concept of life, so Krishna gave a warning in the 18th chapter, 58th verse. He says, Matchitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi atachetvam ahankara na shroshyasi vinangshasi. So he says, Matchitta, if you remember me, if you are in consciousness of me, and in that consciousness you fight, then mat prasadat, by my mercy, sarva durgani tarishyasi, you can cross over all the obstacles on the paths. That is because of my mercy. But atachetvam ahankaran, because of ahankar, because of the false pride, you think I can do whatever I like. Why should I listen to Krishna? Why should I listen to the Guru? Why should I listen to the Vaishnavas? I will do what I like. So because of miti ahankar, if one thinks like that, and you don't listen to me, na shroshyasi, what will be the result? Vinangshasi, you will be lost. So Krishna is giving a very clear understanding. If one gives up the false ego and one gives up the false pride, surrenders to Krishna, is in Krishna consciousness, performs all activities in Krishna consciousness according to the plan of Krishna, the result is Krishna bestows his mercy by which all the obstacles on the spiritual path are dispelled. But on the other hand, if one does not do so, if one acts out of mithya ahankar, the result will be one will be lost in the material whirlpool, in the cycle of birth and death. And so therefore, the consequences of false pride is that one has to continue material existence and one fails to receive the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And so therefore, for practicing devotees who are sincerely trying to advance in Krishna consciousness, putting an end to the false pride which is naturally there in the conditioned souls since time immemorial is absolutely imperative. So what is the solution? The false pride is very deep rooted. Since time immemorial we have been carrying it. Firstly, from the past times in the scriptures, one has to understand the consequences of false pride. And therefore, in the scriptures, so many past times, again and again, whether it is Indra or Brahma or Lord Shiva, such great personalities, sometimes even they are affected by false pride and they fail to recognize their master. But then one has to study the consequences of false pride. And as we were saying, that one develops a superiority complex. When one develops a superiority complex, one tends to offend others. There are aparadhs. When there are aparadhs, that's a mad elephant that enters into the beautiful garden of devotional service within the heart and creates a great stumbling block in one's progress. Therefore, one has to scrutinizingly, from the scriptures, study the pitfalls and the dangerous consequences of false pride. And of course, there are so many examples in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to illustrate this point. But that is the first point within the solution. The second important point within the solution, understanding the formidable nature of false pride, influenced by the material illusory energy of the Lord, and how the illusory energy is insurmountable. And the master of the illusory energy is only the Supreme Lord Krishna. One has no other choice but to surrender to the Supreme Lord in order to become free from the influence of the false pride. Therefore, the founder of our Sampradaya, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahmaji, is teaching us through his own example in his prayers of creative energy in the 3rd canto, 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, verses number 23 and 24. So in verse number 23, Brahmaji prays, Esha prapanna varado ramayatma shaktya yadyat karishyati grihita gunavataraha tasmin vikramam idham srijato picheto yunjita karma shamalam chayatha vijayam. So he says, Esha prapanna varado ramayatma shaktya. He says, you give vara, you give benedictions to those who are prapanna, those who are surrendered unto you. You are enjoying the internal potency Rama. But yet, for the sake of creation, you expand yourself as the Gunavatara. But actually, tasmin swa vikramam idam srijato. Actually, you are the actual creator. You create by your own energy, swa vikramam. As far as I am concerned, I am simply an instrument in your hands. So, that is what one has to remember, that one is simply an instrument. Brahmaji is teaching us this, that he is about to perform the most wonderful service of creation of the universe with all its innumerable planets. Brahmaji is praying, my dear Lord, please let me remember that I am simply an insignificant instrument in your hands. Yunjita karma shamalam chayatha vijayam. Let me give up this karma shamalam, the mala. The mala means the contamination of thinking that I am the creator. The false prestige of being the creator. Please let me give up this false prestige. He is praying. So Lord Brahma is praying, please let me remember I am simply an instrument in your hands. I am not the creator. Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful statement in the purport. He says, yes, Lord Brahma, he has recognized that he is simply an instrument. That is the way of becoming dear to the Supreme Lord and receiving his full benediction. When one recognizes this fact, that is what Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Nimitta matram bhavasavya sachin. I have already done the work. Graphically, through the Virat Roop, Lord Krishna showed that all the millions and millions of soldiers have entered the unlimited mouths of the Virat Roop, and he has crushed all of them into churnitair, into powder. He has shown that. And so therefore, he tells him, you simply become my instrument. When one recognizes that, Srila Prabhupada says, then one becomes dear to the Supreme Lord, becomes qualified to receive benedictions from the Supreme Lord. In the next verse, Brahmaji prays, my dear Lord, as I am performing this wonderful service of creation, please let me never be deviated from the Vedic hymns, from the instructions of the Shastra. Srila Prabhupada in this purport writes some very, very important sentences which I would like to present as it is. Srila Prabhupada writes, so I'm just quoting, Brahma, as the supermost Brahmana, is afraid of such a fall down, and therefore he prays to the Lord for protection. This is a warning for one and all in the spiritual advancement of life. Unless one is sufficiently protected by the Lord, he may fall down from a spiritual position. Therefore, one has to pray constantly Prabhupada says, one has to pray constantly to the Lord for protection and the blessing to carry out one's duty. So this is an important part of the solution, to pray constantly to the Lord for protection from the influence of the illusory energy. And then Srila Prabhupada explains how the path of spiritual life is like walking on razor's edge. A little inattentiveness may at once create havoc and bloodshed, but one who is a completely surrendered soul, always seeking protection from the Lord in the discharge of his entrusted duties, has no fear of falling into material contamination. So if one is always praying for protection from the material energy, Devi Shugunamai Mamamaya Duratyaya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So if one is always praying to the Lord for protection from the material energy, then the Lord is pleased, and then one can be saved from the influence of the material energy in the form of false pride. Otherwise, this is an important obstacle while practicing devotional service. And of course, the third point under the solution is the purification of the heart by sincere, attentive chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us that what needs to be the appropriate mood for chanting by which we can attract the Lord's mercy. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. His Holiness Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj explains that to hold a substance, an appropriate container is required. Just like in order to hold tiger's milk, an iron pot will not do. A gold pot is required. So similarly, in order to hold the mercy of the Lord, a container is required. And that container is this mood of Trinadapi Sunichena that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us. That is the container which will hold the mercy of the Lord's. Otherwise, mercy is available in such amazing ways within our International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada and the Lordships are flooding the entire universe with their mercy in the form of such wonderful devotee association, beautiful deities, the books, the shastras, everything that is required to progress in devotional service, everything is being provided. The mercy is flooding. That's what Mahaprabhu has come to give us. But the qualification to hold that mercy, to become recipients of that mercy, by which one can please Krishna and progress in spiritual life, is this mood of humility, free from false pride, and being reinstated in one's constitutional position as simply the humble servant of the Supreme Lord, Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments or questions? Bhakti Prabhu or Maharaj would like to comment and add something.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Wonderful lecture. Having one's own opinion about something, is it a symptom of pride?
Hare Krishna. I'll try to answer your question on the basis of what Srila Prabhupada writes. Srila Prabhupada writes in the famous verse, 4th canto, 30th chapter, verse number 8, purport. Srila Prabhupada writes that even in a spiritual society like the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, it is possible for different individuals to have different opinions. I just remember a pastime of Srila Prabhupada, which is told by Shrutakirti Prabhu. So he says once in a GBC meeting, there was some heated argument going on some issue. and all the leaders were discussing quite aggressively, or I don't know if that's the right word to use, but anyway, so they were, okay, heated argument. Okay, fine. Thank you. So, and Srila Prabhupada, he was attending the meeting, and Srila Prabhupada was beautifully smiling. The devotees were wondering why Srila Prabhupada is smiling. There's a heated argument going on. At the end of the meeting, some of the devotees approached Srila Prabhupada and asked him, Srila Prabhupada, there was such a heated argument going on. Why were you smiling in the midst of this heated exchanges between the devotees? Srila Prabhupada said, it shows we are not Mayavadis. Everything is not one. Everyone is not one. And so therefore, there is definitely a possibility for different opinions. But in that same purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, yes, different individuals can have different opinions, but actually there cannot be two opinions. Why? Because the goal is one, and that is to satisfy Krishna. So if different opinions are leading to the same goal to satisfy Krishna, then actually in one sense, it is one opinion, having different ramifications.
Srila Prabhupada always said, in Kali Yuga, a pauper is also proud of his penny.
Even the frog is proud of his pen.
One fourth solution you missed out. In 7th canto, you can add to your class.
Definitely.
7th canto, 15th chapter. Narada Muni gave solutions to give up all the 6 things. By being determined, one should give up lust.
Correct.
By giving up enviousness, one can give up anger.
Yes.
By discussing about the disadvantages of acquiring wealth, one
Right.
can give up.
Yes.
Then by serving a pure devotee, one can give up
Pride.
pride.
Right. Yes, yes. Thank you very much, bro. Yes, a very important point. Yes, by serving the pure devotees, one can give up pride. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, this is one comment. Once His Holiness Girira Swami gave in Bhagavatam class 4 things. If one make a mistake, then he must realize that he had committed a mistake. Then one must repent and rectify. Then only one can be situated in his proper position. No one likes a puffed person, but everyone is pleased by humble behavior. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro. I think the Maharaj has some comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You were mentioning in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if anyone has any vibhuti, any opulence, it's simply a spark of Krishna's splendor. And if one fails to see that connection, then the pride arises. So my question is, can the pride arise from opulence one may get from the Lord if one thinks, I have done pious activities, and thus the Lord is rewarding me with these opulences?
Okay, so if I understand your question, you're asking that if a person thinks that due to my pious activities, the Lord has bestowed upon me the opulences. Okay, fine. So that's a right understanding. That's a right understanding. So if one understands that the Lord has given me the opulences, then definitely then the person should use them in the Lord's service. That is the perfection of having the opulences bestowed by the Lord. But if one thinks that okay, the Lord has given me the opulences for using for my sense gratification, then that becomes a problem. Then such pious people, they may have the opulences, but because they don't use them for the Lord's service, then they also misuse them. And thus they cannot feelingly take shelter of the Lord. As Mother Kunti says, Janma Aishwarya Shruta Shribir Edamana Madhapuman. One becomes intoxicated, and then Nevharatum Abhitatum Vai Tvam Akinchnago. Then one cannot feelingly call out the holy names. One cannot feelingly take shelter of the Lord, because one thinks that by my endeavors, okay, the Lord is bestowed, but it's my endeavors by which they are being bestowed. And therefore, well, I'm a great person. I've done so much punya. Therefore, I've got them. Therefore, I should use them. So then, pious people who are in sattva also, therefore, then fail to take shelter of the Lord. That's my understanding.
Thank you so much. What about in the case of like the Keshi demon kind of mentality that I am a great devotee, I am a great guru, I have so many opulences. They're coming from the Lord, but I am great.
Yes.
How does this arise?
Well, so that means that one has a partial understanding. One doesn't have a complete understanding. So one has an understanding that yes, ultimately the Lord has given them to me, but then one fails to understand why the Lord has given them to me. So the motives are not quite right. There is some material contamination within one's motives. And therefore, one may understand that the Lord has given, but one also feels that I'm entitled to them, and therefore I can use them for myself. Is it okay? Thank you so much. Okay, we'll take one last question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a very wonderful class. So, I was just reflecting in the last solutions part under that heading. You were sharing about Brahmaji's example, very beautiful, that how Brahmaji is doing Visarga. So he is giving the true acknowledgement to Krishna's Sarga, because Krishna is a primary creator. So it's very similar to what Maharaj was asking, is that because radio waves are there, but then it is I who is trying to manipulate those radio waves and trying to bring that, capture it, and make some invention, make some discovery, mobile phones and things like that. So I am manipulating it. So something similar to what Maharaj was telling about, that I have been given, like I am using my intelligence, Krishna is empowering me, although it is his vibhuti, everything, but still that I doesn't go somehow. It's so difficult at the end of the day, although a lot of lectures and, still, and especially when we are talking about, in a devotee community, and you mentioned about the GBC meeting. So I was just recalling one another incident, in the sense, like, especially leadership roles and all, always we think that if I would have get that power, then I would have done little differently. I would have not done in this way. My opinion would be this, what Ramarupu was telling about. So, like, how to actually, take out that I, that particular thing is so deep-rooted, as you mentioned. So, if you can throw some light on this.
So basically, the mentality of I am mine, aham mameti, is basically because of ignorance, because of moha. That is how we started. The root cause is moha. And so therefore, one has to eradicate the moha. And Narad Muni is giving the solution how to eradicate moha in the first canto, 7th chapter, is describing Yasyam vai shruyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktir utpatide pumsam shoka moha bhayapaha. So one can eradicate the moha by shruyamanaya, by hearing about the prowess of the Supreme Lord and how the Supreme Lord is in control. And even if one thinks that, okay, I have some intelligence by which I'm manipulating, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But again, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that it is I who am given matta smritir gyanam apohanam cha. So Krishna is giving the memory, Krishna is giving the knowledge, Krishna is giving forgetfulness. We are totally under the control of Krishna. So what is actually mine? The only thing that the jiva can do, the only prerogative of the jiva is to desire. Besides that, there is nothing else the jiva can do. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma karta ahamiti manyate. It is only because of the false ego one thinks that I am the doer. Vimudatma, he is a fool who thinks like that. So one is totally being controlled. If Krishna doesn't give intelligence, what can the jiva do? The jiva may have big desires, but unless Krishna sanctions them, unless Krishna gives the intelligence, what can one do? One is totally dependent. So that is why all the shastras, all the pastimes are leading to that understanding by which one understands I am totally insignificant. I am 100% dependent on the mercy of the Lord. The only thing that I can do is desire. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is, when one understands that, then one can forego all this ahammameti, and then one can feelingly take shelter of the Supreme Lord. And the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.